day, planet Earth. Michael Litten, the last DJ, host of Ride the Vibe. The last DJ is shout out to the late, great Tom Petty. And we're broadcasting from the super cool, wicked, awesome DRS ATL studio right here in Roswell, Georgia. Got Wahid Gomes at the controls making all the magic happen because I sure as heck can't make anything happen in that regard. And I'm super, super stoked to have hard-grunge rockers, Stone Angels, on the show. They have released their highly anticipated and sought-after new album, Up in Smoke. It's out on CD and vinyl. Love the return of vinyl, y'all. Armed to the teeth with a flurry of sledgehammer riffs, colossal choruses, and unabashed wailing solos in a departure from the norm. The collection of 9 hard-hitting songs it's going to be released digitally track by track throughout 2024. But buying the album, which is the way to go, man. Come on, y'all. Pony up some bucks. Get the whole album as the artist intended it to be bought. In this fleeting moment or at a show is the way to hear the album first in its entirety, as intended and to savor. And you can do it. You can do that by going to stone-angels.com. And I think it's like, and I've got on the show guitarist James Ennis. Did I get that right? The last name, James?
Yes, you did. That's one of the better pronunciations I've heard.
Oh, sweet Jesus, even a blind squirrel. Lead guitarist, and then Niall Kersey vocals, and Sam Sayers bass, and Laws Ford on drums. They unfortunately have to be at day jobs or night jobs because it's 6 o'clock in the UK, I think, right, James? Or 6?
Yeah, no, that's correct. Drummer Loz, he's beginning his day now because he's a professional poker player, so he always gets the evening trains up to London to go to the casinos.
Wow, professional. But I thought they didn't allow those kind of people in.
Well, they have apparently tournaments that he plays in.
Okay. Yeah.
When I say professional, I mean he hasn't had to work a regular 9 to 5 for over a year now.
Wow, I love that. So he's not a card counter, or does he count cards, or should we not say on the air because then they won't let him in?
No, I think he's a legitimate player. He's always studying the best ways to kind of learn how to play poker. Whenever on the road, he's always just constantly watching YouTube videos about how to improve your game.
So you guys don't play with him?
The only game that I play with him is a game of pool because I can beat him at that.
Smart. So you got to stick to your sweet spot for sure. Oh, I love it.
Exactly.
Well, totally fired up to have you on the show, and for your listeners that are legion and growing, and will be growing even more after they listen to this great new album, but they may not be familiar with Ride the Vibe. The way we roll the show is we ask listeners to sit back in a comfortable environment because it's a podcast and they can listen to it. Here in Georgia, we're out on the floats now on the lake because the weather's so nice, and we encourage the listeners to get a beverage of their choice in the studio here in DRS studio. We're featuring a product we like a lot called DrinkMate. It's the Carbonate Anything drink maker, and they mean anything. You know, a lot of the competitors, you can't do, all sorts of different stuff, but this DrinkMate can carbonate teas and ciders and recarbonate flat sodas and beers and wines and spirits, et cetera, et cetera. So we like them a lot. They're out of Michigan. And we're going to play 6 songs off your album, off the 9. We're only going to play a couple of minutes, y'all, because we want you to go buy the album, stone-angels.com, and pony up the money, get it as the artist intended it. And it's a fantastic album. I've been listening to it nonstop in the run-up to the show. In fact, just listened to it on my old vintage Oakley Thumps on my bicycle ride today in the run-up to the show. So that's the way we're going to roll it. What do you think about that, James? Is that good?
Yeah, it works for me.
So let's start. Just how'd you guys meet? I know it was you and Niall, I think, that came together in 2011. Do I have that right?
Yeah, that's correct. So Niall and I were kind of aware of each other before then because we were both in separate bands, kind of gigging the local scene.
Yeah.
And both those bands imploded at about the same time.
Yeah.
Because, it's hard to keep a band together. It's like being in a relationship with 4 other people. But yeah, so eventually I was just chilling in my room, and he dropped me a message on Facebook saying, hey, I'm wanting to put a band together. I know you're free. Fancy joining? And I was like, yeah, I've got nothing better to do. That sounds great. He originally wanted to call it the Niall Kersey Project, and I quickly shot that idea down.
Too much Niall Kersey in the name.
Yes, just a little bit too much.
And you guys, when you say in the local area, you guys are in Brighton, right? Brighton.
Yes, that's correct. Right on the south coast of the UK. It's normally quite sunny, but it's a bit miserable today.
But a big music scene for those in the States that may not be familiar with the area.
Yeah, so I actually originally came down here for university because I studied music, and Brighton itself was kind of like the Mecca because you can throw a stone and you'll hit several different venues.
Yeah.
And any day of the week, you'll be able to go and see live music, which is wonderful because I grew up in the sticks in the countryside in Hertfordshire, where there was just no music scene whatsoever.
Yeah. Well, now I know. I think I have this right. You do PR or you do White Lightning PR.
That's correct. Yes.
So what? And that's focused on music.
So
all music.
Yes. So it's basically my kind of the unique selling point of White Lightning PR is helping artists navigate Spotify to reach a wider audience base.
Yeah.
Originally, it started off predominantly just helping rock and metal artists, so my kind of wheelhouse. But then word started to spread about what I did, so I pretty much cover all genres. As long as I feel that the quality of the music is there, I should be able to help them.
Wow, cool. So any musicians here in the States, they can reach out to you, and what's the best way to get you, James?
Yeah, so either going, my email is james@whitelightningpr.co.uk, or you can just search White Lightning PR on either Instagram or Facebook, and you should be able to find me.
Find you that way. Well, and speaking of PR, I mean, we'd be remiss if we didn't give a shout out to Wes O'Neill. You're a PR guy.
Yeah, no, Wes is one of the three prongs of our PR team that we have going on. I've had the pleasure of working with him through some mutual clients in the past, and so he's been handling the press side of it all. Yeah, and
it's through him that we met. So I'm a big fan, and I know Wes was a little. He told me he was teared up over on Sunday seeing the retirement of Liverpool's manager. Yeah.
Oh, yes, Jurgen Klopp.
Jurgen, yeah. Now, just a little off topic, but is there speculation that Jurgen's going to pick up the reins with the German national team? Is that kind of the buzz or not?
So his reasons for leaving Liverpool was that he wanted to take a break. I think the toll of having to be a manager of such a big team, he just needed to at least take a sabbatical for a bit. And he's in a fortunate enough position that he's got enough money that he can take as long as he wants.
He wants to. So it'll be interesting to see if he does come back World Cup time to do Germany. But
yeah, well, they always say it's a long time to be retired, so I'm sure he'll get itchy feet at some point.
Yeah, right. Excellent. Well, very cool. So that a little digression there for folks here in America. That's the beautiful game. That's the English Premier League we're talking about. But back to the music. So let's cue up the first track off of this great new album, Up in Smoke. This is Stone Angels, Where the Crow Flies.
If I die before I can wake up, if I fall down in my sleep, if I pass deep in my slumber, would you still miss me? Come
Just a little teaser, y'all. Where the Crow Fly off of Stone Angels with a dash in between the stone and the angels.com from the new CD, and it's on vinyl as well, Up in Smoke. That's where you want to buy it. So talk a little bit about that song, and also we were just talking when it was playing about the name, and I thought that was kind of a fun story too. So share that with the audience if you would, James.
Sure, of course. So Where the Crows Fly, as I said, that was the first single that we brought out of this new record.
Yeah.
And we also thought it was the ideal track to kind of begin the record, because when the drums kick in, we wanted to use it as a way to announce our return. Because it had been a few years more than we wanted to between the first album and this one.
Yeah.
It almost unintentionally turned into our own equivalent of Chinese democracy. Partly because of the pandemic kind of ground to a halt. We've also had more drummers than Spinal Tap. So you know, there was a few hurdles that we had to get over. And kind of the story behind Where the Crows Fly itself, it's about not being counted out of the race, basically. Mm-hmm. It's, too easy. It's too easy in life for people to destroy rather than to create, and saying, so-and-so's finished, etc. So we wanted to show you that, we're still here and we're coming back swinging. Now, in terms of the band name itself, so we were just saying the origins come from my love of the Darkness side band Stone God, should I say? Yeah. And they put out one stellar record, which was I was listening to religiously at the time that Stone Angels themselves formed. And I just love the imagery of stone and gods. And I decided to try and work down the deity hierarchy as to what was after gods. And that's how we landed on the band name Stone Angels.
I love it. And that first album was Give In to Temptation? Did I?
Yes. So our first record was Given to Temptation.
Now that was more like an EP, like just 4 or 5 songs. Was that?
No, it was an 11-track album.
Oh, 11. Okay, I could only get 5 on Napster, but they're kind of lame sometimes. Very cool. Well, when we talk about Niall as a vocalist, and as I read your bio, y'all, that he was 6 and he was seeing bands all around the Brighton Hove area with his dad because his dad was security. What's the story there, James?
Yeah, so he got to basically go to as many gigs as he wanted to without having to buy a ticket, because his dad could basically put him through the service entrance. Yeah, which this is before I knew Niall, but I've heard plenty of stories from him, and so I was very jealous of that. Yeah, my personal kind of love affair, again, similar to Niall's, was largely responsible from my dad. Okay, he's an avid music lover. He has about 10,000 vinyl records. Oh my lord! So just grew up with being surrounded by music. Yeah. And it took me about 6 years of asking for my parents to get me an electric guitar, and they finally relented on my 13th Christmas. The rest they say is history. Wow.
Now, so all that music on vinyl, so there was no question you guys were going to do vinyl then, put out a vinyl.
Yeah, no, definitely.
You'd have been disowned, right?
Pretty much. Yeah. And I have started collecting vinyl myself. I do love it. I've got to take my record player to be serviced, because it's unfortunately it's not playing at the correct speed at the moment. I think that the band has slipped, which I had a bit of a heart in my mouth moment, because the reason that I knew that there was an issue with the vinyl player was when we got the test pressings for our album Up in Smoke. Yes. So I was so excited, having waited several months because it takes ages to get vinyl. Mm-hmm. I rushed to the vinyl player, put it on, and then it sounded like Alvin and the Chipmunks through. And so I was worried that there was an issue with the vinyl.
Oh my God, you got to be like, we birthed this thing and it's not what we wanted.
Exactly that. And so thankfully Niall had a record player as well, so I went around to his, and it just sounded so so mega transcendent. Because especially with vinyl, with record, there's so much more kind of mystique or like emotion that goes to listening to a vinyl for me. Like it's the second that you put the needle down and you hear that little scratch on the record. And especially with today's consumerism, with streaming platforms like Spotify, putting a vinyl album on is one of the few times now that I just listen to a record from start to finish. Is when I'm actually putting a record on, because
of course
it's like watching a film. I'm in it for the long haul when I drop the needle.
Absolutely. Well, and that's the whole genesis of Ride the Vibe, is a throwback to the day. In my case, in Colorado, Boulder, where we would just stack the albums, and we had an eclectic mix. All the mates had different tastes, and we'd put them all on, and then open up the liner notes and just have at those liner notes, and get such a plethora of information. And now all that's lost. So with your vinyl, will they get some detail, backstory? Who's playing on the instruments, and
I'll have a breakdown of the which members are which on the album. We had to go for, compared to the CD, which is like a six-fold, I think they call it, where so it opens up twice. The vinyls had to be, just because of the costs. Unfortunately, we had to streamline the packaging a bit, so it's the front and back. Because the album itself on the CD, it gives you a bit more information about the why we call the album Up in Smoke. Which, for any listeners that are unaware,
we're gonna talk about that when we come to that song. But
cool. Yeah, I'm rushing ahead.
Well, that's okay. It's exciting. You
stay tuned.
You can be the last DJ. That's right. But we gotta. I think we should hear "Hold On," because that's fitting. Hold on there, James. Hold On off of Up in Smoke, Stone Angels with a dash.com, off of their new CD. And that is Mr. Laz Ford opening that up with that tremendous drum intro. Gotta love that. It's good that you found, you had to go through more drummers than Spinal Tap, but you found the right one. So that's the key.
Yes, it's amazing. It's like, as I say, we've got to trial loads of great drummers, but it's finding one that really kind of fits there. So you can't shoehorn a person into a band. They just got to gel, and luckily Loz fit the mold very well.
Yeah, And then Sam came to you guys about the same time.
So he came during the pandemic, Sam, actually.
Okay.
So we'd already been recording the record when he joined.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, again, he's dove headfirst into the band.
Yeah.
And it's great because him and I have quite a good rapport on stage I like to be quite physical in my movements. So Angus Young from AC/DC is my biggest inspiration.
Yeah.
So, I like to throw the duck walk every now and again, as well as run around on stage. And thankfully, Sam likes to give as good as he gets when I'm doing that.
I love it. And the duck walk, though, we have to go all the way back to the originator, right? The Chuck Berry. Well, what's the one thing, James, you'd like listeners to take away from this conversation? What would you say to those that are in the States listening to this?
That's a good question.
When you can come back to it.
No. Take away. Say, hopefully, we're going to be coming for you.
There you go. That's what we were hoping to hear. Yeah. So we got to make that, Wes. We got to somehow make that happen. I'm seeing a Stone Angels Preacher Stone kind of tour over here in the States.
Yeah, maybe we get on the bill with Blackstone Cherry or something like that.
There you go. I love it. Well, as I understand it, from doing a little research, you guys would love to have both AC/DC and Alice in Chains open for you all. That's a vision you have. Do I have that right?
Yeah, I think maybe we open for them. Might be the more realistic one, but yes, no, they're definitely two artists, two bands that have. For the band, for us in general, but for me specifically, I absolutely adore both those bands. And for example, with the first track, Where the Crows Fly, definitely try to give a bit of an Alice in Chains vibe to it.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, no, again, I think Jerry Cantrell is one of the best 6-string players on the scene.
I love it. And you get on this Hold On, you get this, when you play it live, you get this request a lot, as I understand it.
Yeah, no, it's definitely, while we're not a band that people typically, start a mosh pit to,
right?
It's definitely one of the songs that has the most bounceable kind of energy. And it's great because when the whole band kicks in, normally the crowd then really start to kind of feed off it, and then we feed off their energy, and it's a kind of a great back and forth. And
where do you put it in the lineup, given that energy? Do you put it earlier, or you do it later?
Yeah, so it's typically at the moment it's normally within maybe the first 3 songs of the set.
Yeah, okay.
Just partly because we're at the stage of our career that we can't have too many guitar changes because we're still trying to maximize our 20 to 30 minute slots that we might have. So we basically start off with what we call the detuned songs. So all the songs where we made the guitar go, we get those out of the way first, and then we go back into a bit more of a standard tuning for the final tracks. Partly because at the moment a lot of the final songs are probably our fastest tempo ones. So we try to end on a high.
Yeah, sure. Build to a crescendo. Well, and I don't know whether you guys said this in another conversation you had, tongue in cheek or not, but you kidded that the most requested song you get is Freebird. Was that accurate?
Yeah, no. So I always, as a joke, whenever we're playing a gig, we'll shout it out to any of the other bands on the bill. I'm that guy, unfortunately. But
so you're the one that requests it.
Yeah,
I gotcha. Cool. Well, let's cue up in Smoke, because we want to talk about that, because you teed it up. But then I also want to talk about, when we come back, being an unsigned independent band, and then also working with Mike Krampus on this project. So we're going to be right back with Up in Smoke, the title track off of stone-angels.com is where you're going to buy this thing in vinyl or CD. We'll be right back.
Black smoke clouds, a clear blue sky. In the distance, a grown man cries. The pain I felt scars like a knife as the flames carried into the night.
on Ride the Vibe. Michael Litten, the last DJ, playing what he wants to play and saying what he wants to say, because that's the way Tom Petty wrote the lyrics to that brilliant song, and off his last DJ album. And in this case, I want to take a short minute to highlight Wahid and I with the DRS ATL and Ride the Vibe are honored to be sponsoring some live music in Roswell, Georgia, at the Roswell Cultural Arts Center. And this is a Locals and Legend jazz series. And the legend is Ken Pawlowski from New York City. He's a multi-award-winning jazz clarinetist and an ultra-entertaining jazz legend who has over 70 CDs to his credit. Man, oh man, that's crazy. And 400 as a sideman. Whoa, dude. And the Locals, this is pretty wild too, y'all. The Locals are Joe Alterman, who gets high praise from the late, great Les McCann and Ramsey Lewis, who's got a birthday coming up here, I think, next week. And then Carla Harris as a brilliant vocalist. And Carla has got such incredible chops that the Dave Brubeck group family, Mrs. Brubeck, gave Carla access to the Brubeck songbook. So that's pretty cool. So that is November 16th. Tickets went on sale, and that thing's going to sell out, y'all. So you want to jump on those tickets. So we're back with a great conversation with James Ennis, the guitarist from Stone Angels. And right before break, I want to have you talk, James, if you would, about being an unsigned independent and some of the advantages of that, and then also working with a multi-platinum award-winning producer, Mike Krampus, who produced Steven Tyler, Everybody Loves an Outlaw, Smash Mouth, and recording in his state-of-the-art studio, Bass Culture, with mastering duties expertly handled by the legendary Tim Turin, Black Sabbath, Guns N' Roses, Pearl Jam, and Van Halen. Holy schmoly. That's pretty wild. How'd all that come about?
So it actually came about through my PR business. So that's how actually I came to meet Mike. And from Mike, that's how I met Wes from Wes PR. Yeah. So Mike was, he's in a great band called Dead Romantic. And they were just basically starting to release their first couple of singles. And he wanted my help to really kind of push their name out on Spotify. And we ran a few great campaigns together. And, you know, he was really happy with what I'd done for him. So he basically said if there's anything that he could do for me, to let him know. And that's when I was like, well, we're putting together this record. You fancy making us sound like we actually know what we're doing? And so he was like, sure. And Mike's a lovely guy. So yeah, we took the 5-hour drive up to Barnsley from Brighton, and
that's where Bass Culture, the studio is, state-of-the-art studio.
Yeah, that's where it was. He's now since relocated to Oshawa, Canada.
Oh, wow!
Because I think he's originally from Canada himself. Okay. Yeah. And so we got to go up there, and it was a beautiful, beautiful studio. It's a shame that it's no longer around. But yes, so one of the reasons why we're able to get such a great drum sound off the record is that there was such a giant cabin of a room that the drums were in. So it was like Moby Dick, Eat Your Heart Out. It just sounded massive. Yeah. He a producer of his caliber was always going to be outside of the budget of an independent band like us. So
you mean Laws couldn't make enough money playing poker? What's up with that? You better.
Well, he had just started to learn how to play poker at that point. So, so thankfully, because of the fact that Mike and I have been able to develop a bit of a friendship through working with his band, we were able to sort something out, and it's paid dividends because not only has he made the record kind of sound how I wanted it to in my head, we learned so much more from him as well. Just even like subtle nuances with how to write songs and like just minor changes here and there that can make a big impact. For example, on Where the Crows Fly, just before the first chorus kicks in, there's about a beat or two where it's just all silent, and then which creates the vacuum for the music to come swelling back in again. Yeah. And it's just, it's the minor touches like that can have the biggest impact.
That's that pause that the great guitarists talk about, not the notes you play, but the ones you don't play, right?
Exactly that. So it's the spaces in between the notes, and so it's just having someone kind of like him who's just on another level to us, just kind of imparting his wisdom. I was scribbling notes furiously, just trying to
right. To sit at the feet of the master. And then how about the mastering duties with Tim Turn? I mean, he's a heavyweight too.
Oh yeah, no. So again, that was through Mike. When you get to Mike's level, he kind of knows everyone,
right?
And so he's like, "Oh yeah, my buddy Tim, I'll sort you out." And so we went just going through his highlight reel of all the people that he's worked with. Some of my favorite bands, so AC/DC through to ZZ Top, with Soundgarden, Pearl Jam, Nine Inch Nails, you name it, in between. And again, it was a dream come true.
Wow.
And so it's just basically made album number 3 a lot more difficult.
Yeah, I bet. Because is Tim he's in the UK,
he's in the UK as far as I'm aware. It's just more now that we might, if we want to work with Mike again, I'm going to have to try and save up for the airfare.
Canada. Well, we'll get you go over to Canada and we'll work on getting you on some kind of bill with a little old band out of Canada. I like a lot, Zedhead.
Definitely
hook you up with them. So talk about Up in Smoke and how personal that is and how traumatic that was for you.
Sure. So the inspiration behind the song was born out of tragedy. So back in November 2019, my house burnt down while I was inside. The song kind of deals with the fallouts of it, because it was hands down the most traumatic experience of my life. Seeing your safe space, your home essentially be destroyed in front of your eyes. And so that actually happened just a couple of months before the pandemic struck itself.
Geez.
So it's emotionally dealing with the fallout of that, and then having the pandemic, which no one had a good time in that, kind of thrown in on top. But I used that time during the pandemic to write the song, to really kind of process it, because as a result of the trauma, I was probably drinking a bit more than I probably should have, and it was putting me in a bit of a depressive spiral. So being a musician, I tried to kind of talk about it in the only way that I knew how, which is to make a song out of it. And so thankfully it was a very, very cathartic experience being able to actually write the song. But then also, Niall very graciously allowed me to have a stab at singing the lead vocals, as it was such a personal song. And so getting into the studio and to just kind of scream my lungs out was a great experience. And one quite cool story behind this song as well. There's an acoustic guitar that's used during this, and this was my wife's acoustic guitar, which was in the loft in the attic, which is where the fire started.
Yes.
And so this was a flammable wooden guitar that was inside an even more flammable cardboard box at the time.
Right.
And the whole roof was completely destroyed. The only thing that came out unscathed was this guitar.
Oh my gosh!
So I took it as a sign from the the writing gods that I had to write a song on that guitar in particular. And so it made it onto the record as well.
I'm getting chills. And you don't get that kind of information, you all, from liner notes. That's why we like Ride the Vibe, because we get that kind of backstory. I love that. Well, in the run up to this show, in part, but also just was fascinated by it. I watched last night Eric Clapton, Life in 12 Bars, documentary on his story. And we were talking when we were hearing that great song Up in Smoke about, I did not realize the length of time that he suffered from his addiction to alcohol and drugs. And he talks about in that documentary, just like you articulated a minute ago, how music was so cathartic for him to get him through that period, coupled with, of course, the loss of Connor, which then prompted him to stay sober. So what of all the things you mentioned, that a lot of your stuff was, because I read a piece on Kareem Abdul, who lost his house in a fire as well, and he talks about the memorabilia was the most traumatic loss, not the furniture, this or that. Same with you, but you mentioned that a lot of your stuff was blissfully in the studio.
Yeah, so we were cutting the demo for the album in our friend George's home studio, which basically meant that the majority of my music equipment was over there.
Yeah.
But there was one guitar that I did run in for. So I now know the question, if your house is on fire, what guitar are you going to save?
Wow.
I before I say what guitar it is, I do not advise running into a burning building to save a guitar.
Right.
It was just a kind of in the moment, the adrenaline, not thinking correctly.
Yeah.
So this guitar is a early 1970s Gibson ES325.
Wow.
So it looks like it's a hollow body, similar to George McFly from Back to the Future, but it's in a walnut brown finish. It's a very nice guitar, but yeah, that's the answer to the question. If anyone ever asks, burning building, what guitar am I going to save?
And as a piece of advice to those up and coming musicians, don't do that.
Yeah,
let the guitar go, unless you think you're going to become like an Eric Clapton, and then you're going to auction your guitars for millions of dollars to raise money for drug rehab facility. Otherwise, stay out of the burning house. Well, let's hear Over the Edge, if we could, Wahid, and then we'll be right back. The Vibe. Michael Litten, the last DJ, playing this great new album from the Stone Angels. That's stone-angels.com, which is where you can buy it on CD or vinyl. And that's Over the Edge. And that song, you've got a video out with that, and that was filmed and directed by LB Photo and Nick Burdett.
Yeah, so Luke is LB Photo, Nick Burdett. They've done all our videos, and they're just they're friends of the band. They're local to us, and their cost per their results are fantastic. They speak for themselves.
Once again, because Laz hasn't made enough doing poker to pay.
Yeah, we're waiting for him to go to Vegas to hit the jackpot so we can do a residency.
Very good. Well, talk about that song. Another great one off this album.
Yeah. So that one was one that Niall originally brought the majority of the bones to the rehearsal. It's a great number. For me, it's kind of like an AC/DC style song. I think it wouldn't feel out of place in their repertoire. But there was one bit just before the solo happens, which is where I felt like we needed a hook. And that's where I kind of came up with the line of sirens don't sing, you just hear them roar.
Yeah.
And it's kind of building up to another kick before the solo kicks in. And because I love my kind of mythology, gods, monsters, and everything like that. And so I like the idea of the sirens that lead people to their deaths. We always hear it as the siren song. We think it's sweet, but what have we been misinterpreting it? That it's like is their kind of stay away from me kind of thing.
Yeah.
It's like their battle cry.
Not sirens to be confused with what you heard when your house burned up.
Yeah, and of course, they're
different.
Not to be confused in the slightest.
Oh my God. Well, given your White Lightning PR and your expertise, talk about your model. So you're releasing 9 singles, throughout this year. Talk about that model, because I know nothing about it.
Of course. So as this is one of the benefits of being a unsigned independent band.
Okay.
If you say you're a signed band, even not signed band, but a lot of people will follow kind of a bit of an outdated release strategy for streaming platforms. So they copy the physical release strategy, which is, drop a couple of singles and then release the album. And if you're on a record label, they still follow that format, partly because they want to get the artists on the road so they can start trying to make their money back as quickly as possible. But
imagine that.
But for an independent band, because of the fact that we don't have, big bottomless pits of money to create records with, we really need to try and get our best bang for the buck with the release. So this way, we decided to separate the physical release from the streaming release. So the record itself is 9 tracks in total. We've already released 4 of the singles, and when the last single dropped in March, that's when the physical album was able to be purchased directly from our web store, so stone-angels.com. But then by doing this approach, we're allowing ourselves a lot of time and new content to be released on Spotify, for example, so we can keep growing our fan base. Because when I first started White Lightning back in 2019, Spotify was reporting about 20,000 songs being uploaded every single day to its platform. Fast forward to today, they're reporting over 120,000 songs.
Oh,
so
Jesus.
if you think about it, in 1 month, over 3 million songs have been uploaded. And so if you throw all your songs in one go onto Spotify, you become almost old instantaneously. With the attention span that a lot of consumers on the platform have.
Right.
Even Daniel Ek, the Spotify CEO, said, if you really want to stand a chance of growing on the platform, you need to drip feed the releases. So that's the reason why we decided to approach it this way, because it basically means that those who want to buy physical can still do so, which is great, because I personally believe that the rock market still has one foot firmly in the physical side of things, because as we touched on, the liner notes, the album artwork, having an actual record in your hands is a joyous experience. So for our fans that don't want to have to wait a year to hear the whole album, they can head straight to stone-angels.com to buy the record from us.
Absolutely. Well, and I think that seems to be from, particularly recently, the guests that have come on the show, seems to be a movement back to releasing a full body of work. That's a theme that's kind of permeated the last couple conversations on Ride the Vibe. Then vinyl, we talked about that kind of coming back around, which ties into that whole, release thing like back in the day. And I like that. I mean, I think when you listen to the whole album all the way through, would think of as a brick have been done in this world of, nano attention spans, or less than a goldfish attention spans. I don't know. Did you give in to temptation the same way, or is this new for?
No, so we were young and naive at the time. We didn't really know better, which is one thing that I try and do with my clients is because one thing I've learned is there's a big education gap between musicians and Spotify itself.
Yeah.
And it's just this, we're just told to upload music there and that's it. So whenever I'm speaking to a client, I will tell them exactly the best practices to approach Spotify with.
Yeah.
And, if it's possible that they want to do this drip feeding technique, which I just described, because, it will benefit them in the long run much more than, releasing 5 tracks in one go.
I love it. Do you think he's learned a little bit since Mike Mills kind of blasted him? REM's Mike Mills a while back said that Daniel Ilk could go F himself over his comment about artists needing to release more music just, to make more money, if that's the way.
And it's unfortunately, it's as annoying as it is, it's the reality of the world that we live in. So, you have to adapt or die.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not going back, I don't think, the other way, that's for sure.
Yeah, and well, like you say, it will never go back 100% the way it is, but this is one of the reasons why you're seeing a bit of a resurgence in vinyl, is, trends are cyclical. So things that, were in fashion that went out of fashion will come back again to a certain extent. And I think people, with the rise of everything being digital and non-physical, that's why things like Spotify vinyls are coming back because I think it's got quite a nice nostalgia quality to it.
Yeah.
And as we touched on, it really helps. It's like reading a book, having a record.
Yes, absolutely.
You really are much more engaged with the album, and especially for concept albums or the flow of an album, you're going to get that so much clearer than you would do from any streaming platform.
Well, and you all put a lot of time, effort, and energy into that. I don't think people realize, but I mean, you're very mindful. It's not like you just throw darts at the board and go, oh, well, let's put where the crows fly first, and we'll put, da-da-da-da last. I mean, you're very, very mindful of that. So, and then the other thing I think it does is it gives the listener an opportunity to really unplug, because when you're doing everything on that device, and you talk to some young people and you go, you ever listen to an album? What? An album? No, I don't even listen to one whole song all the way through. It's like, my attention span's so that of a less than a goldfish.
Yeah.
And so I don't think that's good for us as a race to have that kind of attention span. Now we got to slow down a little bit, maybe, take time, listen to the whole album in 30 minutes or 40 minutes. It's not going to kill you, and you're going to enjoy it. Well, let's hear Supercharged, because I've got to believe this may have, I'm just going to speculate, may have something to do with Niles riding motorbikes, but I don't know.
No.
Oh, wow. So I'm totally off.
Yeah. So do you want the story now? Or
no, let's hear Supercharged first, and then we'll come back.
Cool.
released off of stone-angels.com's new album, Up in Smoke. And that does not have to do with Niall's passion for riding motorbikes. But what does it have to do with?
My late grandfather used to be a semi-professional racing driver, and he used to race supercharged MGs.
Oh my God!
And so, if when you're next on our social pages or on Spotify, you'll see the artwork, which actually features a picture of my granddad racing his car. And so I originally came up with the riff. And the riff to me just sounded like a V8 engine going through a gear change. And so that's where, that's when I was like, okay, this is supercharged. And I always had supercharged in my head because of my grandfather. I always loved that kind of, just that name, supercharged.
Did you did you get to go to his races, or
No, he had retired long before I was born, but whenever we would go to my grandparents, you'd see his racing trophies. He got to race in some pretty special places in the UK. So, for example, Goodwood Festival of Speed, there's an iconic hill climb route that they always do. He got to do that. The Brighton Speed Trials, and there's another one that's it's long since disappeared now because it's fallen into disrepair, but they got a museum. I think it's called Brookbanks.
So he was good.
Yeah, they have his leather helmet and racing goggles on display in there.
Oh, my leather helmet! I mean, that's a classic.
And we're just releasing tomorrow our music video for Supercharged, which is is basically like a Mario Kart music video.
Yeah.
So you should check that out.
I love it. Oh, very cool. Great backstory. Well, I want to, but the time is just flying by. We could do another hour easily, but we're going to cut it off in an hour because people's attention spans probably, did they even listen to the whole Where the Crow Flies? But let's cue up Western Dreams if we could, Wahid.
Fear the world outside, but is that what freedom means? I've seen it in nightmares, but never in my dreams. Becoming so blinded by wealth and what it means. You've been feeding us lies and promised false beliefs. Born to live our lives, working to survive, but we don't know why. The world divide as we sit aside from the safety of our screens. When did hope lose its home? When did love run so low? We survive to survive, 'cause that's the Western dream. They've changed and you're told what to believe. Watching life slip away as you chase the grain. Now you're tearing at the seams. I've seen it in nightmares, but never in my dreams. Becoming so blinded by wealth and what it means. You've been feeding us lies and promised false beliefs.
That is Western Dreams, y'all, off the new album from stone-angels.com. That's Up in Smoke. Talk about that that song just a little bit because we're almost out of time.
Sure.
And then I picked up a lot of life lessons from you in this conversation, but just share with the young musicians that are at the beginning of their career what you might suggest to them and talk about this song just a little bit.
Sure. So when for any new musician that's about to, say, for example, release their first song, it's always good to set a clear budget from day one. So the budget isn't just for the recording process, but it's also for any promotion needs that you'll need for it as well. So feel free to reach out to any potential PR people that you might want to use, find out what their rates are.
And they might want to use you, and they can find you again, James, where?
So I've got my Facebook page, so White Lightning PR, or Instagram underneath the same handle, or my email is james@whitelightningpr.co.uk.
Gotcha. And what's the last part? White Lightning?
PR.co.uk.
Oh, co. Yeah, right. Yeah. Gotcha. Yep. Gotcha. Cool.
And yeah, so and the other part is don't rush your release. Take your time, because it's so easy to rush things out. But yeah, so with Western Dream, it basically was inspired by the whole kind of ethos of the American dream.
Yeah.
But I wanted to kind of expand it to the UK as well. And so this is kind of more kind of shining a light on how potentially tough it is just to survive in these countries. You know, they've got rising costs. You got, the UK, we have Brexit, which has just made things 10 times harder. And it's just because the whole idea of the American dream, I loved it, is that, you know, if you work hard, you can make it, you can build a life.
Right.
But sometimes it just feels like it's with each passing year, it's getting harder and harder for people to be able to achieve that. Not just in America, but like, you know, everywhere. So that's why I'm saying, that's why I decided to call it Western Dream.
Right.
So you're looking at the Western part of the map.
I bought a gallon of bloody bleach, James. $6. Are you freaking kidding me? It used to be $1. Oh my God. Well, and I, you just have to give a shout out for those musicians out there. James has given you some great advice. And if you're looking for a way to make some money while you sleep, and who wouldn't want to do that? You want to reach out to my buddy and owner of this great studio here, Wahid Gomes, because he's got a boutique publishing group called Verde Music Group. And so check that out. We'll just wrap up, James, if you would. Parting comments, future projects, gigs, etc. They can find all the gigs, I'm sure, on the website, but just parting comments and thoughts before we...
firstly, it's been an absolute pleasure to be invited to take part in this wonderful show.
Oh, God bless you, brother. Back at you.
For anyone who says there's no good music out there, you just got to be willing to look. There's so much great music out there.
Yes.
You got to... The way that the big bands became big is because when they were small, people gave them a chance. So go to a local venue, see a local band, buy a CD, buy a T-shirt. It means the world.
Amen. I couldn't say it any better. On that note, we'll end it. God bless you, brother.